Welcome to the Bill Wooditch Show. The Bill Wooditch Show is the place where we go always forward. That's the only way I've ever known in my life. You know, I was stopped by limits in a family that thought the limits were about the height of a ceiling. And the ceilings back in western Pennsylvania were pretty small, pretty short. And so were the windows of opportunity. Where there were windows, they were pretty small. There wasn't a lot of example that I could follow in that western Pennsylvania town. But the one thing I knew that I would have to risk to get whatever I wanted in life. And I was this crazy kid that just thought risk is something that's fun. It's going 110 miles an hour or 120 miles an hour in my, Chevy Impala down a dark country road without seatbelts on. That was what I thought risk was, or maybe thrill. No, that was just stupidity. And that's the way that some make decisions based on risk, chance, reward, to choose or not to choose. And for me, the only way to gain something in life was to risk intelligently. You know, I read that on their deathbed, people had more regret for those things they didn't do, more so than the things they did. That's right. They look back, and about 88 to 90% of the people that were polled had regret for things that they didn't do. So I would ask you this. Play it forward. Think about your life. Think about those things that you can do now that you may not be able to do in the future. What does that feel like? If you feel those pangs now of unsettling future regret, maybe it's time to do this. There's 4 things that I would coach you, encourage you, mentor you to do. One is to assess what it is that you really want. No, I mean that you really want. You know, a French philosopher said, man's biggest fear is to be alone in a room with their thoughts. Think about that. You're alone. You're in your bedroom or your living room. It's dark. There's no one around. Or maybe there is someone around. You'd rather be alone. Or you are alone with someone there. Let's try to get that through my head, to wrap that one around. But the biggest fear is to be alone with your thoughts. And that's where all that stuff starts seeping in. You know, I've got rent. I've got this payment. I got kids in college. I go, oh man, I just hate my job, hate my boss. I just don't want to go back to that same old grind. All that stuff starts to seep in at night. You're alone with your fears. It's one of our biggest fears. How do you overcome that? Well, you play it forward. You start thinking about the pangs of regret, possible regret, potential regret, and then you get clarity on what you really want. But you have to get really clear with what you really want. And see, people come in and interview in my company every week. And most of the people who go through the interview process, and it is a arduous, long, painstaking for them and us process. But probably 88 to 90% of those people will tell me they really want it. They're really going to do what it takes. Here's the problem. They don't know what it is. They've never endeavored to know with clarity what it is, and they sure as hell don't know what it takes, because you're not going to know until you're in it. You're not going to know until you're in it. There's a price you're going to pay, that sacrifice for success. There's a cost associated with it. Do you think you're willing to pay it? Do you know what it is you want, and how bad do you need it? If you can tell me that, and I can see if you're resourceful, and if I can experience that resilience in you, and I can get around that attitude, see if you got some talent and aptitude for what it is that we're doing or what you're doing in whatever vocation, job, or career you're in, then and only then can someone make an assessment on the shot, on the outcome, and the future. That's it. But you got to know with clarity what it is you really want. Then you got to take the risks involved with change. There are risks and choices every day you have to make. Take out a piece of paper, Draw a big T bar on the paper. Put down all the stuff that's good, all the positive stuff about making the change on the left. And on the right, put down all the stuff that's negative. And you can weight it by putting a little more emphasis on whatever category or whatever thing feels pretty good or wrong, and just try to add that up and balance that out. And then you're going to decide with the only two forms of decision you can make, the head and the gut. You know, the head is going to drive a decision. It's going to rationalize where you want to go. But it's the gut that's going to govern. And the gut's that maybe small, imperceptible tug. But you got to go with your gut. You got to go with your gut. Well, you got to use your head too. You got to think. But every time I've gone against my gut, every time I've tried to overcome with logic, I lose money, brain cells, time, all of the above. Be careful with that. Know what you want. Know with clarity what you want. Once you're in it, know what you're willing to give up to get, and then you have to keep doing it. So you have to weigh, is this worth taking that jump? I can't speak to those who have families. I can't speak to you if you have children at home and you're going to make a big career move. You've got to weigh that into your assessment. You can't just jump out there and think, oh, wow, I'm going to make this, but you don't even know if the parachute opens. You got to be more careful, I would think, with the risk. Doesn't mean you don't take it. It just means you've got to weigh it very, very carefully. When I was younger, I took those risks. No seatbelt, 100 some miles an hour, careening down country roads. Stupid. It was stupid. Would I do it today? No. No. At least I don't think I would. No. There's no police officers watching, right? So I don't get arrested in the Ferrari. But you've got to know what it is that you value. And then you have to decide, because as the unselfish person you are, it's not just all about you. Unless it is. It's not all about you. It's about your family. It's about your kids. It's about those around you. It's about them as well. You've got to be careful with your assessment, but you have to make that assessment. And you have to keep in mind that future regret. How strong does that pull over the present level of comfort? I think I'm in a level of comfort at a certain point, even when I'm achieving, because I get to that level and then I want the next, but I can sit there for a while and I know I'm comfortable. And I know that I got to do something else. But I'll wait for a while. Sometimes I'll wait. Not for the perfect thing, but just because I want a break. It's okay to do that as well. And you don't want to make decisions when you're in that state when it's, I'm just bored. No. You want to critically think all the way through. Once you know what acceptable risk is, once you really know with clarity what your goals are, and once you know what you value, you got to run that risk-benefit analysis. Do that. And then think this. You're going to be in one of two camps. Maybe one of three. You can regret making a choice because you're into some new company, you're into some new relationship, you're into something new, and oh my God, what did I do? And you have regret for doing it. You know what it's time to do? Get out the sheet again. What's acceptable risk? What do I really want? What are my goals? What am I going to do? What do I value? And how do I weigh it? It's time to make another choice. The second camp is you regret never making a choice in the first place. You regret those things you never did. And maybe the third category, it's what I call the boat of opportunity. You get on it and you go, and you make a difference in the lives of others. You make a difference in your life, and you do it the only way you know, by going always forward. I always think of, this is probably a pretty cool little story. I always think of Robert Frost, and I always took that road less traveled out of those backwoods of Western Pennsylvania. It was the road less traveled because I had to make it my way. Now, I had people helping me. I had people helping me build that road. But at the end of the day, it was my road. It was my way. And there was a whole lot of people going the other way, doing what everybody else did. But I had to follow my instincts. I had to follow my future vision, what I would feel would be regret, tons of regret if I didn't try. Were the chances of getting my ass kicked high? Sure. Absolutely. But I didn't know what I didn't know, so I just kept going down that road less traveled. Now, I started out in a business about 24 years ago, doing something completely different than I'm doing now. something in the corporate insurance world. And now as a speaker, as a writer, I get to travel all over and meet people and change and make a difference in people's lives, if even just in one little spark of message, because it's not me making the change. It's not me doing the heavy work to do it. It's them. But I got to be that spark. And to be that spark, I have to leave the comfortable confines of my house. It's no longer in Western Pennsylvania in the woods. It's now in the beaches of California. Sometimes it's hard to leave that. It's hard to leave that place. But I do it. And I do it willingly. Because, see, to invest and to immerse in what you're doing, you have to either be all in or all out. Because if you have a foot on the dock and a foot on the boat, that boat is always leaving. The boat of opportunity is always leaving the dock. Stay on the dock of comfort, because if you don't, you got 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the dock, you're straddling, and eventually you're in the water. So one of the places I started to cut my teeth in this new endeavor, well, I did a lot of radio, I did a fair amount of television, and I was doing television in Rhode Island, and I was dragging bags across from Pittsburgh, where I'd done a show on KDKA, to a small hotel in Rhode Island. I got in at night, really late, into Providence, and there it was, up the elevator, right to the suite that was about as big as this brick wall room, but right to the suite that was you got it, Robert Frost suite. And there was that book as soon as I opened the door. And in that book of poems, there was The Road Less Traveled. And I'd known I'd come full circle, because there I was eating pistachios out of my bag, because there were no restaurants open at that time, no room service, no 4-poster beds, but pistachios. And I started laughing. I thought, is this really what I got myself into? Did I really just jump without looking? And then I started smiling, thinking I would have it no other way, because I continue on the road less traveled. And that, my friends, has to be your way, if that is your way. And if it's not your way, it's not for me to say what your way is. That's for you to find out. That's for you to find. But the one thing I would ask for you and of you, don't live your life in that state where it's another world. You're not engaged. You're kind of straddling the boat and the dock. Now, get on one or stay on the other. But get out there and live a life with no regret. Do now those things that you may not have a chance to do later in life. Don't live with regret. My name is Bill Wooditch, and I am off to Dallas and then probably South Beach in the next 4 days. And the Whirlwind Tour will continue for the rest of my days. Be safe. Always forward, my friends.